Sometimes a man sets out to do something kind, only to stumble into the last thing he ever expected. What began as a genuine, heartfelt plan to surprise my kids with a trip to Newport so we could visit my wife turned into the sort of situation you hope only happens in movies. All it took was one hotel door, one split-second moment, and suddenly nearly 18 years of marriage felt like they were balancing on a thin thread. Folks like to joke that whatever goes on behind those hotel doors never sees the light of day, yet some truths have a way of forcing themselves out, no matter how hard someone tries to hide them. My name's Daniel Hawthorne, though most folks just call me Dan. I turned 48 not too long ago. I've been married to my wife, Lydia, for close to 20 years, and together we've got two great kids. Evan, at 16, seems to grow taller every time I blink, and Mila, my 9-year-old sweetheart, still thinks her old man can just about do anything. That Wednesday morning started no differently from any of the others when Lyd was away for work. Things always felt a little tense when she traveled. She tended to get overwhelmed and short-tempered during her business trips, and the house always felt heavier without her. There I was, trying to shuffle the kids through breakfast and out the door. Evan sat glued to his phone like it was part of his hand. Mila poked at her cereal as if the Cheerios had personally offended her, and I was sipping coffee like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Lyd had already been gone 4 days on a consulting job in Newport, and she still had 3 more ahead of her, an entire week in total, which was longer than she normally traveled. We were all feeling the strain. I love my wife even if she gets worked up easily, so the kids and I came up with a plan. We'd fly out and surprise her. The idea came out of nowhere, almost like someone flipped on a light switch in my brain. I was watching Mila swirl her spoon around her cereal bowl when it struck me. "Hey," I said, lowering my mug, "what if we went to see Mom this weekend?" Mila snapped her head up, her eyes shining like it was Christmas morning. "Really, you mean just show up?" she asked. I nodded, feeling the excitement build in my chest. "Sure, we could book flights today and be there by tomorrow night." Just imagine her face when she opens that hotel door. Evan finally lifted his eyes from his phone. "Yeah, that'd actually be pretty cool," he said, and coming from a teenager, that's practically a celebration. By lunchtime, I'd called in a favor at work so I could take Friday off. I got the kids excused from school, booked 3 flights to Newport, and spent the whole process picturing Lydia's reaction, her surprise, her smile, maybe even a few happy tears. I hadn't done anything like this for her in years. That morning, before we finalized the plan, I had tried calling her, but my call went straight to voicemail. That wasn't too unusual. When she was deep in those consulting sessions, she tended to get flustered and ignore her phone. I sent her a text, "Missing you. Kids keep asking when you're coming home. Love you." No reply. A little odd, but I told myself she was just caught up in her work. Later that evening, while I packed our bags, I tried her phone again. Still nothing, a tiny knot twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. Newport was hosting a major business conference that week, and Lyd could get wrapped up in that sort of environment pretty easily. She always felt pressure to stay sharp, stay ahead. She could be almost fierce about it. As I tucked Mila in that night, she hugged her favorite stuffed bunny tight. "Do you think Mommy will cry when she sees us?" she asked, her eyes full of hope. "Maybe, sweetheart," I said, brushing her hair back and kissing her forehead. "I think she'll be really touched. This is going to be one amazing surprise." I had no way of knowing then just how far off the mark I was, no clue that the real surprise waiting for us in Newport wasn't the one we planned, but something that would send cracks through everything we thought was steady. The flight to Newport wasn't long, but it might as well have been. Evan sat with his headphones on, lost in whatever music teenagers listen to these days. Mila spent the whole time chattering about everything she wanted to tell her mom. And me, I sat there between them, doing my best to ignore the growing uneasiness in my chest. I tried calling Lydia 3 more times before the plane took off. Nothing, straight to voicemail every time. I sent her another message. "Hope the meetings are going okay. Missing you." The little delivered notice popped up right away, but still no answer. Dad, why are you checking your phone every 5 seconds? Evan asked, sliding one headphone off. He had a knack for noticing things I wished he didn't. Just making sure our rental car's all set, I said, forcing a smile. But inside, something wasn't sitting right. After nearly 20 years of marriage, I knew her patterns. She was easily overwhelmed, yes, but she'd never gone this long without at least sending a quick message, especially with the kids involved. When we landed at Newport Airport, I gave it one more shot, voicemail again. This time I left a message trying to sound upbeat. Hey babe, just checking in, give me a call when you can. The rental car ordeal tested every ounce of patience I had. Wrong reservation, slow lines, Mila needing the restroom twice. It felt like the universe was dragging its feet. By the time we finally pulled out onto the road toward downtown Newport, it was past 8. The evening traffic had thinned out, but the city still buzzed with energy. Dad, I'm hungry, Mila whined from the back seat. Me too, Evan added, finally taking an interest in something besides his phone. Can we get dinner before we see Mom? Let's get to the hotel first, I said, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than necessary. Maybe Mom can join us for a late bite. The closer we got to the Hilton where Lydia was staying, the tighter that uneasy feeling cinched inside me. I tried her number again, and this time it actually rang, but still no answer. We stepped through the hotel's revolving doors into a wave of warm air. Marble floors, soft lights, the kind of place that makes you feel like you should have ironed your shirt twice. Evan and Mila both slowed down, taking in the fancy surroundings. My wife always stayed at nice places on her company's dime. Why don't you guys wait here? I told them, pointing to some plush couches. I'll check us in and find out which room Mom's in. Mila bounced on her toes. Can we surprise her right away? I nodded, forcing enthusiasm I no longer felt. That's the plan, sweetheart. As I approached the front desk, I had no idea I was walking toward the moment that would change everything. Good evening, sir. How can I help you? The receptionist, a young woman with a professional smile, greeted me. I clear my throat. I'd like to check in, and I also need to get in touch with my wife who's staying here. Lydia Hawthorne, her fingers danced across the keyboard. Let me check that for you. A moment passed. Yes, Mrs. Hawthorne is staying with us. Would you like me to ring her room, please? I said, relief washing over me. At least Lydia was here. The receptionist dialed, waited, then frowned slightly. I'm sorry, sir, there's no answer. Can you try again? I asked, that knot on my stomach tightening. Maybe she didn't hear it. She tried once more with the same result. I'm sorry, there's still no answer. Would you like to leave a message? No, that's okay. I handed over my credit card. We'll just check in for now. My wife is expecting us, sort of. It's a surprise visit. A flicker of something, hesitation, crossed her face. I see. Well, let me get you set up. She processed our reservation, then handed me 2 key cards. You're in room 698. Mrs. Hawthorne is in 683. Different floors, I asked, confused. No, same floor, just down the hall from each other. She paused, then added, It looks like Mrs. Hawthorne checked in with a +1, though. The world stopped spinning for a moment. It +1, what do you mean? The receptionist's expression shifted to discomfort. The reservation shows 2 guests in a room, I assumed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. I forced a laugh that sounded hollow even in my own ears. No, that's fine, probably a colleague sharing the room to save on expenses. But I knew better. Lydia's company always spraying for private rooms for its consultants. It was a point of pride for them. I collected our bags and walked back to Evan and Mila, my mind racing. A work friend, a female colleague, or I couldn't bring myself to complete the thought. Did you find Mom? Mila asked, bouncing with excitement. Not yet, sweetheart. Let's go up to our room first and freshen up. The elevator ride was silent except for Mila's humming. Evan shot me a look. He sensed something was off, but thankfully kept quiet. Our room was nice, standard high-end hotel fare. I set the bags down and took a deep breath. Can we go see Mom now? Mila pleaded. In a minute. Why don't you two wash up? It's been a long day. While they were occupied, I slipped into the hallway and walked to room 683. My heart hammered against my ribs as I raised my hand to knock. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing, but I could hear movement inside. Faint music, the sound of laughter. My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone and typed, "I'm outside your hotel room door. Open up." The movement inside stopped abruptly. Then a muffled male voice. I closed my eyes, suddenly certain of what I would find on the other side of that door. The door to room 683 opened slowly, revealing Lydia in a hotel bathrobe. Her hair disheveled, face flushed. Her expression cycled through shock, fear, and finally settled on something that looked strangely like annoyance. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, stepping into the hallway and pulling the door nearly closed behind her. I stared at her, momentarily speechless. After a beat, I found my voice. "Surprise," I said flatly. "The kids and I thought we'd come see you." Her eyes widened. "The kids are here, at the hotel, in our room down the hall." My voice sounded distant, even to myself. "They've been excited all day to see you." Lydia ran a hand through her hair, glancing nervously back at her door. "You should have called first, Dan. You should have called." I did, multiple times. I crossed my arms. "Who's in your room, Lyd?" She flinched at the direct question. "It's not what you think, really, because I think you have another man in there. Am I wrong?" The door opened wider and a man appeared behind her. Tall, fit. Maybe early 40s, he was buttoning up his shirt. "Lyd, is everything okay out here?" My vision tunneled, focusing on the stranger who would call my wife by her nickname, my nickname for her. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. My voice dangerously quiet. "Dan, please," Lydia started, but I cut her off. "No, I want to hear it from him." I stepped closer. "Who are you, and why are you standing in my wife's hotel room?" I asked, my voice low and steady in a way that surprised even me. The man blinked, clearly thrown off, glancing between Lydia and me like he'd walked into the wrong movie. "I'm Logan," he said slowly. "I'm with the Chicago office." He lifted his hand to shake mine, then winced and pulled it back. I didn't know Lyd was married. Those words landed in my chest like a punch. I turned to Lydia. For a moment, she actually looked ashamed, though not nearly as ashamed as someone in her situation ought to be. Mostly she looked cornered, irritated, caught off guard. "You told him you were single," I said quietly. Lydia closed her eyes, clearly overwhelmed. "Dan, please, can we not do this in the hallway right now?" She glanced anxiously toward Logan. "Logan, maybe you should just go." "Yeah," I said, the anger in my voice finally finding somewhere to point itself. "Logan, maybe you should go." Logan lifted his hands like I was holding him at gunpoint. "Look, man, I honestly had no idea. She didn't mention a husband or kids, nothing." He reached into the room, grabbed his jacket, and backed away. "I'm heading out." He hurried past us, practically jogging down the hall, leaving Lydia and me in a thick, suffocating silence. 18 years, Lyd," I finally said. 18 years, and you're spending your business trips meeting men. "It's not like that," she snapped, the shame turning into quick, brittle defensiveness. "You don't understand, then help me understand," I said. "Explain to me how our kids flew across the entire country to surprise their mother, only to find her in a hotel room with someone else." She looked away, jaw tight. "You should have called first." Of all the things she could have said, that was the one that cracked something in me clean down the middle. "Lyd, you're saying this is my fault, because I didn't warn you before catching you with another man." "Keep your voice down," she hissed, glancing nervously down the hall, like the problem wasn't her actions, but the possibility someone might overhear them. "The kids are waiting," I said, stepping back. "Mila's been bouncing off the walls all day just to see you. What exactly do you want me to tell her?" A flicker of guilt finally softened her face. "Give me 5 minutes," she said quietly. "I'll get dressed and come to your room." I turned to walk away, then stopped. I didn't want to ask, but the question forced its way out of me. "How long has this been going on, Lydia?" She didn't answer, wouldn't look at me. "It was just a one-time thing," she said finally, voice small. "A mistake." But Logan's voice echoed in my head. I didn't know Lyd was married. "A mistake doesn't require lies." A mistake doesn't involve telling someone you're single. It wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. As I made my way back to our room, every step felt heavy, like I was carrying something I wasn't built to hold. My thoughts raced, my chest tight, and I had no idea how I was supposed to face the kids, let alone speak to them. I paused outside our door, took one long breath, and tried to smooth the expression off my face. The key card beeped. I pushed the door open. "Dad, did you find Mom?" Mila asked, popping up on the bed where she'd been watching TV. Her little face was all hope and excitement. Evan lifted his eyes from his phone, studying me with that sharp look he'd had since he was a toddler. "What happened?" he asked right away. "You look weird, too perceptive, always too perceptive." "She'll be here in a few minutes," I managed. "She was surprised to see us." Mila clapped. "Is she happy?" "Did she cry?" "She was definitely surprised," I said, dodging Evan's gaze. "Hey, why don't we order some room service? I bet you two are starving after the flight." Evan shrugged. "Already taken care of." We ordered burgers, fries. He paused, still watching me. "And chocolate cake." "And chocolate cake," Mila added, flopping backward onto the bed. I nodded, trying to piece together a smile. "Perfect." A knock sounded at the door and Mila bolted upright. "Mom's here." Before I could stop her, she ran to the door and pulled it open. Lydia stood there looking like she'd stepped out of a commercial, hair brushed, makeup fixed, wearing a sharp professional outfit. Calm, composed, not at all like the panicked woman I'd seen 8 minutes earlier, wrapped in a bathrobe with a half-dressed man behind her. "Mommy," Mila squealed, throwing her arms around Lydia's waist. "Oh, sweetheart," Lydia said, hugging her tightly. "What a surprise this is." Her eyes met mine over Mila's head. In them I saw a silent message, "Please play along," for the kids, a plea nervous and fragile. Evan didn't move from the bed. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice careful and flat. Lydia crossed the room to him and kissed the top of his head. "Hey, buddy, you've grown since I left." And in that moment, a thought flashed through my mind, simple, painful, and undeniable. I swore to myself I'd never forget what I'd seen tonight. "Important clients," she said, like that was supposed to make everything okay. I let out a short laugh before quickly covering it with a cough. Mila's smile faded right away. "But we came all this way to see you," she said softly, as if her little heart couldn't quite grasp why her mom wasn't jumping at the chance to spend time with her. "I know, honey." "And I'm really glad you did," Lydia said, forcing warmth into her voice. "I'll be all yours tomorrow, I promise. We'll walk around, see the sights, anything you want." Then she looked at me. "Dan, can I talk to you in the hallway for a minute?" Evan rolled his eyes. "Real subtle, Mom." I followed her out, leaving the door cracked open just in case Mila needed me. "So," I said once we were alone, "a work dinner." "That's what we're calling it now." Lydia's polished exterior slipped for a moment. Her shoulders sagged. "Dan, please, I just need a little time to figure this out." "Figure it out?" I asked. "Figure out how to keep lying to your family." "Because from where I'm standing, you've already perfected that." She flinched like I'd struck her. "That's not fair." "Not fair," I repeated quietly. "You want to know what's not fair, Lydia?" I kept my voice low, mindful of the kids only a few feet away. "Mila made me stop at 3 different stores to find that silly travel pillow she loves because she wanted to bring it to you. Evan helped me book the flights, actually helped, not just pretending to. And they were both beside themselves with excitement because they missed you." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a split second she looked like the Lydia I used to know. "Dan, I made a terrible mistake, I know that, but please don't tell the kids, not yet." "So you want me to pretend everything's fine," I said with a humorless laugh. "Put on a show while you run back to your client dinner." "It really is a client dinner," she insisted quickly, almost desperately. "Logan won't be there. I need this account." "It means a lot for the firm." I stared at her for a long moment, this woman I'd built a life with. Somehow she felt like a stranger. "Your career," I said quietly. "That's what you're worried about right now." "No, of course not." She rubbed her temples like the whole situation was something happening to her. "I'm trying to salvage what I can. Please, Dan, just give me one night. Let me get through the dinner. Tomorrow we'll talk and figure everything out." "There's nothing to figure out," I said flatly. You cheated on me. You lied to our kids. You've been living some kind of double life, and I don't even know for how long. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away before she could touch me. It wasn't a double life, she whispered. It was one mistake, but again, all I could hear was Logan's voice. I didn't know Lyd was married. One mistake, I repeated. Right. I opened the door and stepped inside. Go to your dinner. I'll take care of the kids. What are you going to tell them? She asked, her voice tight with worry. I haven't decided yet, I said, but I can tell you this, unlike you, I don't lie to my children. Back inside, Mila was bouncing on the bed again, nothing but sunshine and hope. Is Mom coming to dinner with us? She asked. I swallowed hard. Not tonight, sweetheart. Mom has an important work thing she can't miss. Her little face fell, and my chest twisted in a way I couldn't hide. But we came all this way to surprise her. I know, I said gently, sitting beside her and pulling her in close. And believe me, she was surprised. She just has to finish her work tonight, but tomorrow. She's all ours. Across the room, Evan watched me carefully, his expression unreadable. Where's she going, really? He asked. A client dinner, I said, the words burning in my throat. He looked back at his phone, but not really, he was thinking. Mila bounced back faster than I expected. Can we go see the Newport Harbor tonight? My friend Hazel said there are cool lights and boats. The thought of wandering around like tourists while my marriage quietly crumbled felt impossible. But Mila's excited eyes were impossible to deny. Sure, I said, let's finish eating and then go check it out. Sweet, she said, grabbing another fry. This is still the best surprise ever, Dad. Evan raised an eyebrow at me, silently calling out the parts I wasn't saying. I gave him a small shake of my head, a quiet promise. He nodded back ever so slightly, surprisingly steady for someone his age. That night, we walked along the harbor under soft city lights. Mila skipped ahead, pointing out boats and reflections dancing on the water. Evan fell into step beside me, his voice low. Mom's cheating, isn't she? The bluntness of it nearly made me stumble. Evan, Dad, he said quietly, please just tell me the truth. I'm not a little kid. I looked at him, tall, serious, somehow older than he had been that morning. Yes, I said finally. I think she is. He didn't react the way I expected. No shock, no yelling, just a long, heavy silence. What makes you think that? I asked eventually. He shrugged with a sad kind of maturity. The way you acted when you came back. The way she looked at you, plus, he paused. When you went to find her, you came back looking like something terrible happened. A wry, painful truth washed over me. My son was smarter than I ever gave him credit for. I don't want to lie to you, I said quietly, but this is complicated adult stuff, Evan. I'm not a child, he said. I'd rather know the truth than sit around wondering what's happening to our family. I took a deep breath, letting the cold harbor air settle in my chest. Yes, I said, I found your mother with another man. Evan's jaw tightened slightly, but again, no surprise. I kind of saw it coming, he said. Ever since she started that consulting job, she's been different, always on her phone. Late nights, more trips. A wave of nausea hit me. Had everyone seen this but me? You noticed all that? I asked quietly. Yeah, he said, and I think you did too. You just didn't want to believe it. His voice held no blame, only a sad understanding a kid his age shouldn't have to carry. Mila called out from up ahead, waving at us like she was flagging down a parade. Dad, Evan. Come look at this boat, it has a helicopter on it. Be right there, sweetie, I called back, trying to put some enthusiasm into my voice even though my chest felt tight. Evan kicked a loose stone along the walkway, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. So, what happens now? Are you guys getting divorced? That word, divorced, hit me harder than anything he'd said yet. I don't know, buddy, I admitted. This all just happened, but listen, whatever goes on between your mom and me, nothing changes how much we love you and Mila. He let out a short scoff. If she loved us, she wouldn't have done this. It's not that simple, I said quietly, though some part of me agreed with him more than I wanted to admit. Adults mess up sometimes, they make awful decisions. This isn't like forgetting to pay the electric bill, Dad, Evan said, his voice suddenly older, sharper. She chose to cheat. We caught up to Mila, who had her face pressed against the metal railing, staring wide-eyed at a massive yacht with a helicopter parked on top. "Look, it's bigger than our whole house," she said. I lifted her up onto my shoulders so she could get a better view. Her excitement was a blessing, pure, untouched by everything swirling inside me. "Pretty impressive, huh?" I said, bouncing her slightly to make her giggle. As she rambled on about how she wished we could ride in that yacht, Evan stood a little ways off, hands in his pockets, looking older than 16 had any right to look. I could practically see the gears turning in his head as he tried to make sense of everything. "Don't tell Mila," he murmured once she was distracted by a passing boat. "She still thinks Mom hangs the moon." "I won't," I promised. "Not yet anyway, but eventually we'll have to figure out how to talk to her." He nodded, then surprised me by leaning lightly against my side, a gesture he hadn't given me in years. It was small, but it nearly cracked me open. "We'll be okay, Dad," he said softly. "You, me, and Mila." Hearing my 16-year-old son try to comfort me nearly broke me, but it also steadied me. "We will," I said, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "Somehow we will." When we got back to the hotel, Mila was dozing on my shoulder, worn out from all the excitement. Evan walked beside us quiet, his earlier revelation hanging between us like a heavy cloud. "I'm tired, Daddy," Mila mumbled as we stepped into the elevator. "I know, sweetheart. We'll get you tucked in soon." As the elevator doors opened onto our floor, my stomach sank. Lydia stood outside our room door with her arms crossed, tapping her foot like she'd been waiting far longer than she had patience for. When she saw us, her expression shifted not to guilt, but to frustration mixed with a forced concern. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I've been calling for hours." "We went to see the harbor," I said evenly. "I left my phone in the room." Evan brushed past her without a single glance, swiped the key card, and disappeared into our room. Lydia turned, confusion tightening her features. "Evan, honey, what's wrong?" He ignored her completely. The door shut behind him, her eyes snapped to me. "What did you tell him?" she whispered sharply. "The truth," I said. "He asked, and I'm not going to lie to him." Lydia paled. "You had no right to do that without talking to me first." "Lower your voice," I warned, shifting Mila on my shoulder. "She's half asleep, and yes, I had every right. You gave up your say the moment you decided to cheat on our family." Lydia stepped back like the words stung. "Dan, please, can we talk about this rationally? How was your dinner with your clients?" I asked, unable to resist the jab. "It was productive," she said stiffly. "We landed the account." "Congratulations," I replied, bitterness bleeding into every syllable. "Your career seems to be doing great." "That's not fair," she said, visibly shaken. "Life's not fair, Lyd. Our son now knows what his mother has been doing. Our daughter, well, she's going to figure it out soon enough." "None of this is fair," Mila stirred on my shoulder. "Daddy, why are you and Mommy arguing?" Lydia's eyes filled with tears instantly. "We're not fighting, sweetie, just having a grown-up talk." "It sounded like fighting," Mila murmured. I rubbed her back gently. "It's okay, princess, let's get you to bed." I stepped past Lydia, who reached out and caught my arm. "Dan, we need to talk privately." "Not tonight," I said firmly. "I'm putting our daughter to bed." Evan sat on his bed with headphones on, staring at the wall when we came in. He didn't even glance at Lydia when she followed behind me. I helped Mila change into her pajamas and tucked her in. Her eyelids drooped, her little body relaxing into the blankets. "Good night, baby girl, sweet dreams." "Night, Daddy, night, Mommy," she mumbled, already drifting off. Lydia stood at the foot of the bed, looking lost, like she didn't know how to fit into the room anymore. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered, kissing Mila's forehead with a gentleness I knew she could show when she wasn't overwhelmed and caught up in her own world. Once Mila was asleep, Lydia motioned toward the door with a nervous flick of her hand. "Can we talk in my room, please, Dan?" I glanced at Evan. His back was to us, shoulders pulled tight like springs ready to snap. "You okay if I step out for a bit?" I asked quietly. He pulled one headphone off just enough to look at me. "I'm fine," he said, his voice flat and distant. "Go talk. Figure out whatever this is." Lydia winced at his tone but didn't say a word. I followed her into the hallway, the silence heavy. We walked toward her room, the same room where hours earlier my entire world had tilted sideways. The irony sat bitter on my tongue. She swiped her key card and we stepped inside. The room was spotless now. Housekeeping had erased every visible trace of what had happened earlier. But the betrayal still hung in the air like a stale smell no one could scrub away. "Evan hates me," she whispered finally, breaking the thick silence. "He doesn't hate you," I said. "He's hurt." "All of us are." Lydia perched on the edge of the bed, and for the first time since everything unraveled, her mask cracked, her breathing hitched. "I made a terrible mistake, Dan. I don't even know what I was thinking." "That's the thing," I said, staying near the door, refusing to sit on that bed. "You weren't thinking about us at all." She stood and began pacing, her nerves showing more than usual. "I don't even know where to start. How about the truth?" I said softly. "Just once, start there." She hesitated too long for comfort before finally speaking. "It was just this once. A moment of weakness. Logan didn't act like it was some one-time moment," I said. "He told me he didn't know you were married. How would he not know that if today was the first time anything happened?" Her shoulders sagged. "The fight went out of her. We've been talking for a few months," she said quietly. "Flirting. It started at a conference in Chicago." I closed my eyes. "So today wasn't your first business trip rendezvous?" A long pause. "No," she whispered. Even though I expected that answer, it still felt like a knife sliding in under the ribs. I leaned against the wall for support. "How many times?" "Just Logan," she said. "4 times. And I know that doesn't make anything better." "No," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "It doesn't make it better at all." She wiped a tear from her cheek, her hands shaking. "Dan, we grew apart. You were always working, always focused on the kids. I felt invisible, like no one cared what I wanted anymore. When was the last time you really looked at me? As a woman, not just as a wife or a mother." A flare of anger rose in my chest. "Don't you dare try to pin this on me. If you felt neglected, you could have talked to me. We could have worked on it together. Instead, you chose to lie. You chose this." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up. And I'm so sorry, Dan, more sorry than you can imagine." "Sorry you did it," I said, "or sorry you got caught." She flinched again. "That's not fair. None of this is fair, Lydia. Not to me, not to you, but especially not to our kids. Evan already knows. And sooner or later, Mila will figure it out. You've cracked our family open for a fling with a coworker." The silence that followed felt like a wall between us, built from 20 years of memories that suddenly meant something entirely different. "What happens now?" she finally asked. I really looked at her then. The woman I spent half my life loving, the mother of my children, and somehow a stranger. "I'm taking the kids home tomorrow," I said quietly. "First flight out, Dan, please," she said, stepping closer. "We can fix this. Couples therapy, a new start, anything. I'll do anything." "I don't know if I can ever trust you again," I said. "And without trust, what's left?" Her face crumpled. "We have 20 years together, a family, a whole life. A life you didn't protect," I said. "A history you chose to risk." I moved toward the door. "I need to get back to the kids." "What are you going to tell Mila?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. "I don't know yet. But I do know this, unlike you, I won't lie to her." The next morning, the flight home was quiet. Mila fell asleep almost instantly, worn down by the emotional whiplash of a trip that was supposed to be exciting. Evan sat by the window, headphones on, staring outside with a mixture of worry and something else. Strength, maybe, or respect. I hadn't slept at all. After talking with Lydia, I'd returned to our room to find Evan still awake, waiting for me. "We're leaving tomorrow," I told him. "First flight out." He nodded without hesitation. Relief washed over his face. "Good." Lydia met us at the airport the next morning. Her eyes were red and swollen, her whole posture stiff with guilt and fear. Mila ran into her arms and hugged her tight, confused and sad about our sudden departure. "But why can't Mom come home with us?" she asked again and again. "Mom has to finish her work here," I said, each word tasting bitter. "She'll be home in a few days." Evan barely looked at his mother. He gave her a quick, one-armed hug, the kind you give a distant relative, not a parent, and boarded without turning back. And just like that, our family of 4 became 3 on that airplane, and nothing felt certain anymore. As the plane began its descent into our hometown, my mind drifted to the long road that lay ahead, what it would mean to separate, what conversations I would eventually have to face, and how on earth I was supposed to explain any of this to Mila without breaking her heart. I could already hear the questions from friends, from family, from everyone who thought they knew us. "Dad," Evan's voice pulled me back to the present. "Yeah, buddy, you okay?" I asked. His concern, so steady and grown-up, made my throat tighten. "I will be," I promised him quietly. "We all will be, it's just going to take time." He nodded, seeming to absorb that. "What happens when we get home?" he asked. Is she coming back?" I let out a slow breath, choosing every word with care. "She'll come back to the house, yes," I said, "but things are going to change. Your mom and I need to figure out what's best for everyone." "You mean divorce," he said, not even trying to soften it. "Maybe," I admitted. "I honestly don't know yet, but no matter what happens between your mother and me, nothing changes how much we both love you and Mila." He was quiet for a long moment, staring straight ahead. "For what it's worth," he said finally, "I think you're doing the right thing. We deserve better." His words hit me hard, part pain, part pride. He shouldn't have to be this wise at 16. He shouldn't have to shoulder any of this. But his strength helped steady mine. When we landed, Mila perked up almost immediately, blinking awake and asking for Lydia the second her seatbelt unclicked. Her sweet, hopeful question was a painful reminder that nothing about our family would ever be the same again. 4 weeks passed. Lydia and I sat across from each other at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared meals, birthdays, holidays, now separated by a neat stack of divorce papers. She'd already moved into a small apartment downtown. Evan still barely spoke to her. Mila was beginning to understand, in her 9-year-old way, that Mommy and Daddy wouldn't be living together anymore. "I never wanted this," Lydia said quietly, her pen hovering above the signature line. "Neither did I said honestly. "But here we are." She swallowed hard. Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" Her eyes, once familiar and warm, now felt like they belonged to someone I used to know. I took my time answering. "Maybe someday," I said, "for the kids' sake, but you need to understand some things can't be undone." She nodded slowly, accepting that truth, and signed her name. When she stood, grabbed her purse, and walked out the door, I watched her go without saying a word. And surprisingly, instead of collapsing under the weight of it all, I felt something else, a lightness I hadn't felt in months. The pain was still there, of course. It would be there for a long while. But for the first time since that awful day in Newport, I could see a life beyond the betrayal, a new beginning for me and my kids. A chance to rebuild something steady and honest. We were going to be okay. Different, yes, but okay.